world powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
चुन चुन करके हिसाब लेना ये मेरी फितरत है.
Why should it be a problem if I'm smart enough to have multiple options? You should be admiring me.
भारत झुकने वाला भी नहीं.
The rise of India will be determined by India. It will be determined by our strength, not by the mistakes of others.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and in this video we are going to talk about G2. Yes, G2. See, President Trump has used this term many times over the past year and a half, I would say. Like, for example, on October 30th, 2025, before meeting Xi Jinping, President Trump posted that G2 will be convening shortly. Then on November 1st, 2025, after meeting with President Xi Jinping, President Trump again said, my G2 meeting with President Xi of China. Then in May 2026, again, let me share my slide real quick, okay? Then again, he said that the two great countries, I call it the G2. Then in G7 meeting, when he was meeting in a bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he says that we have G7, we have G2 coming up, then we have G20 coming up. So at this point, I think it is safe to say that something is cooking in his head. And we don't know what exactly that is. Whether it is fruitful, whether it is useful, or just another, soundbite that okay, yeah, let's see. Or he's just calling any meeting, every time he meets with President Xi of China. So he just wants to call any US-China meetup G2. So what he's probably thinking is that, hey, let's call it G2 100 times. So probably people will eventually start calling it G2. So we have to understand what exactly is the motive here. Why? Because if you look into G20 is the top 20 economies on the planet, and that's the group of the countries. G7 was created basically to control the oil. That was the objective. But or say the seven top economies or something. But I still don't believe that. I think that it's mainly was to control the oil. Then comes G4. G4 was basically created by India, Germany, Egypt, and I think one more country is there, Brazil. Yes, 4 countries, they created this thing in order to actually for the multilateral reform, that is in United Nations Security Council reform. That's why G4 was formed. So is G2 something like that? Does G2 have some sort of agenda, something, a common motive behind it? Or is just some, cockamamie plan, like, yeah, G2. And there is a reason I'm saying this, okay? Because China has not once said G2 framework. President Xi doesn't even, if you go look into it, President Xi doesn't make any such statement. In fact, if you go read their Chinese, the outlet, the Global Times or something, you won't find anywhere mention of G2 or something. They just actually, I would say more so, they don't take it seriously. Let's just say that, okay? So what exactly is going on? Let's talk about all that in this video. And before we move forward, please do like and subscribe. And let's get going. Let's get started. Okay. Now, so what are the reasons? What are the reasons that President Trump is trying to bring back, or not bring back, but trying to force the creation or formation of G2? I think that the reason number one is that he's trying to go back to that bipolar world. And when I say bipolar world, because US economy is not actually supporting all the motives that the US politicians have, or the agenda that they had. It's like the Roman Empire. Roman Empire basically died because of overextension, and when the Hun actually attacked, they constantly attacked Roman borders. So they Roman Empire just couldn't sustain it after a while. Why? Because they started to lose money in trade and all that. So that's how it started. Okay, they lost the whole entire thing from the periphery. Now coming back to the topic. So is he basically is this whole idea behind this whole thing is to bring back the bipolar world? Now let me actually share my slide real quick, okay? Now, why is that? Why I'm saying this thing? See, US is number one, the central power in the Western Hemisphere. It controls the trade flows and supply chains to an extent globally, but at least in the Western Hemisphere, they do control it. And they are no longer playing this whole multilateral games, United Nations, WTO, and all that, right? And they used to at least set the terms that others adapted to it. The whole entire uh, the concept of rule-based international order. Technically, rule-based international order was never officially written anywhere. It was just that, okay, this is the order after World War II and when the unipolar world started. And this is the order, it's working, so let's accept it, and it's okay, nobody cares. That was the whole thing. Because countries saw economic benefits to it. So they were like, okay, rule based international order it is, so let's go with that. Fair enough. Then come, if we look into China in today's day and age, it's the only rival large enough to reshape the system. Why? Because of its Chinese manufacturing. China pretty much is a rock solid military power. Yeah, people may say that Chinese equipments don't work, this and that, but who wants to find out is the question, right? Then Chinese, if you look into it, they control the manufacturing supply chains. They dominate the Asia Pacific periphery, or in the when it was then later on it became Indo Pacific. Then China has always China is has maintained this I would say posture that, hey, we are peers, we are not adversary, we are not here to fight this that, let's talk. Now, so when you establish the bipolar logic, then bipolar logic, at least in the Soviet time, uh, bipolar logic was applicable because uh, Soviet Union had captured lots and lots of territories after World War II, and there were other powers that were just still rising. Their economic situation was very bad because they were all coming out of colonization, and China was no different either. And what happened in the bipolar world during that time was that anything that US couldn't provide to the world, Soviets would go and provide that need or fulfill that need for that particular country. Just that's how Soviet Union and India became pretty close. Now, is there something going on here that, yes, uh, let's get together, let's form a bipolar world where let's not fight with each other, and you control the manufacturing and we control certain things, and then we just discuss all those things out, and this is your region, this is our region, we are good to go. In his mind, I'm not saying that's probably is going to happen. This is a multipolar world, and China has always been a proponent of multipolar world. So uh, so in his eyes, saying that G2, meaning the bipolar world, is uh, at least from his angle, that we are living in a bipolar world is a lot easier. Why? Because then uh, you can ask China to put pressure on some country. Let's say if if US wants to put pressure on Russia, then they can ask China, hey, can you put pressure on Russia? Can you ask them? Or hey, then if Chinese want something from India, they can ask US, hey, can you put pressure on India? Meaning this thing, at least they have this thing in mind. And assuming that India will be on US side and Russia will be on China's side. And that's the equation, but I don't really know. But at least I'm thinking that when he keeps saying G2, then bipolar logic is definitely undeniable. Okay. Now let's talk about the reason number two. Now, the reason number two is, I think, that Monroe Doctrine 2.0 or Monroe Doctrine, and alongside the One China policy, which means that if you look into it closely, you find that One China policy is coming. I mean, these two things are being done in some exchange, right? It's an exchange going on. Exchange of what? Exchange of regions, or say sphere of influence. So, for example, here, if you look into the Western Hemisphere dominance, that then US basically is saying that they control trade and routes through Panama to Canada all over. Then they're also saying that if you don't sign the deal with us or don't work with us, then there will be no electric vehicles, no Chinese tech or anything in the supply chain. And if you have to understand this, that China has a very huge market in Canada and in Latin America. Now, G2, in this case, why I'm saying Monroe Doctrine 2.0 or Monroe Doctrine and One China policy, because it only makes sense that uh, there is a unsaid exchange, that okay, this will be our thing, and you do what you have to do here, but don't do anything that is anti-American in the Western Hemisphere, and we will be fine. And in return, Chinese are asking that, hey, what are you going to do for us? So what are they going to do for China is that Taiwan has been a very huge uh, point of contention for China for a long time now. So what they're saying is that you can take Taiwan, and uh, this way what happens is that Beijing gets its unification price, and then South China Sea basically will be Chinese maritime control. And the most important impact of this whole thing will be that the Asian powers like Russia, India, they will be, or Japan for that matter, Japan, then there are South Korea and all that. They will be left to manage China by themselves. US is saying that, hey, we are not going to manage China, or at least President Donald Trump is saying this in his mind somehow. He thinks that uh, uh, that they are somehow managing China and saving the Asian powers. But if you look into their statements also in the past, that actually really shows the mindset as well, because during Biden administration also, when there was some, I think, I can't remember, one of his guys, he went to India and he's like, oh, hey, what are you guys going to do? Let's say you guys if China attacks India, then who is going to save you? Those were the words, and Indians were like, China has already attacked us, what did you do then? Nothing. So, and we will manage it, so no need to do all that. But the mindset, right? Now, another thing that's recently that happened, now if you look into this, then Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, he, in the hot mic actually, he was found whispering about Chinese electric vehicle concerns at G7. Why would the Prime Minister of Canada will discuss the import of Chinese electric vehicles in Canada and ask for President Trump's permission, unless there has been a proper understanding between the two countries that you guys are going to be under our umbrella, so discuss everything with us before you do something, right? So this way, at least you can say this thing with confidence that US has already established it as a gatekeeper in the Western Hemisphere. Basically, based on what happened in Venezuela, then there was Panama Canal. Even though US never got the control of Panama Canal, but still, right? Then, so this is what I am thinking. And so when Asian powers, now coming back to China thing, okay, now when Asian powers manage China, at least in President Trump's mind, then what US will do is they will just sit on the periphery, eat popcorn, enjoy soda. That, oh well, look, these guys are fighting, meaning that US doesn't even have to play that game, that, oh, China, the fear mongering game, doing that, oh, Chinese are going to attack you, Chinese are going to attack you, or to Japan, they're going to attack you, they're going to attack you, right? So this way, what in his mind he's thinking that, hey, if we get out of here, of the from the Asia, in that from that region, then number one thing, that US is saving itself from unnecessary conflicts, especially from all these rising powers. And also, the second thing that's going to happen is that these powers are going to fight among each other anyways. And to do that, we tried India to fight China, that's not working. We tried Pakistan to fight India, Pakistan is getting smacked. We tried lots of other things, none of that has worked. Now let's try pumping China up and see what happens. And so far, China hasn't even responded to it. Okay. Now let's move into the reason number 3. That's, I think, could be one of the important points too. Okay. And I think the reason number 3 is it could be the pressure building tactics. Pressure building tactics on who? On allies and partners. Meaning that if you want to say, like, like how Prime Minister Modi did. Think about it. What Prime Minister Modi did in the SCO summit. When Trump was putting tariffs on India for Russian oil and all that, they said that, okay, no problem. We are going to China. We are going to SCO summit. And they attended SCO summit. But here's the key though. Now, to put the pressure back on India or Russia, there is no other group for US to do so. Even though US and China, there is an annual meet for trade talks and all that, but that's just annual meet for the trade talks. That's not a summit meeting. This is just that Chinese delegation and American delegation, they meet in California and all that and discuss the trade. That's about it. But US had applied for SCO membership, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization movement. US had requested the observer status on it, but Russians and Chinese, they rejected that offer, rejected that application. So think about it. India had that leverage of SCO, that India went over there, and Russia, India, and China, Prime Minister Modi, President Putin, and President Xi Jinping were standing there having a laugh and all that. But the US doesn't have that kind of leverage, if you ask me. Because we are entering a multipolar world. Okay, we are in a multipolar world at this point. So you have to have some sort of leverage. Now, US seems like sort of isolated as well. Why? Because allies are just allies. Allies are not your partners. Allies don't build your strength. Allies are like the leeches, who just suck the blood out of you. That's about it. That's what they do. So at least, and this is not my definition. This is President Trump's definition. He just never used the word leech, but he keeps saying in a broader sense. Okay, so So now he's thinking that, hey, we don't have that kind of leverage that we go into some sort of grouping or some sort of meeting so that it puts pressure back on India or Russia. So I am thinking that probably that's another reason that, yeah, instead of feeling left out and see all these all these leaders of these three other great powers getting together, hanging out together, while President Trump is posting some crap on Truth Social that India and Russia have fallen into China's trap and this and that, right? So he could be thinking that, hey, let's make G2. So whenever US wants to pressure on Russia or pressure on India for something, then they can use that. Let's meet China, say, well, we are meeting G2. G2 meeting is going to happen. And at least that's what he is thinking. Now, if you look into it, then you find, let me share my slide real quick, okay? What? Japan doesn't do anything. Okay, Japan, Article 9 pacifism cannot protect you now, this, that, all that, right? Then South Korea, same way. North Korea is China's card. That's countered. Then comes your India. What President Trump is saying, that you always have wanted the strategic autonomy. You got it. The borders is yours to manage. Well, India is already managing it. US is not doing anything about it or anything. If worst, in fact, the worst case scenario, US keeps pushing for, keeps showing India's a wrong map all the time. So that's really not helping or anything in building the relationship. And to Russia, his message is that China is your neighbor and partner. G2 basically makes Beijing the senior partner, not you. And like I said, this is nothing but a pressure building tactics. If you look at into the when actually it was used during the whole tariff game, G2, G2, G2. And then he used the G2 when he was meeting with Prime Minister Modi on the G7 sideline. That G2 is coming. He just threw it out there. Nobody cares about G20 when G20 summit is, because BRICS summit is coming too. So nobody cares about G20 summit. So why would you throw G2 is coming up too? That's because US and India are they have reached an impasse, especially because of President Trump's stubbornness that, yeah, we are not going to move forward with the trade deal. And Indians are saying that, okay, fair enough. You have only 2 years left, and we will find somebody else to come and sign the deal. No problem. You can keep dragging it, no issues. And in this whole scenario, actually, India is not on the losing side. Why? Because India already has that market. India is working with the European Union. European Union now wants to become another pole. European Union is saying that, hey, forget US, forget all that. Now we are going to be a pole, and NATO will be probably sidelined for the time being as long as President Trump is there. But European Union will rise as a pole. That's given. Okay, that's $20 trillion economy of a group. You just cannot ignore that, right? It's a very huge market, or I would say not market, but more so like more. It's a huge consumer because they don't produce much. So that's there. That's the thing. Okay. So India is not gonna be. India can wait. India can afford to wait. But can US afford to wait? That's the question. And so far, it doesn't look like it. Okay. So now that's the reason number 3. Then comes the reason number 4. Okay. Let's talk about reason number 4. Actually, I'm going to share my slide. This is a very interesting reason. And that reason is the face-saving exit narrative. What do I mean by that? See, if you look around, what you find, whatever has happened so far, US has changed its logo and all that. They have removed Indo-Pacific. They have called it just US Pacific Fleet and this and that. And if you look into the Park Silica, okay, if you look into Park Silica, you find that Taiwan is not part of Park Silica. So in a way, Taiwan has been abandoned. All right, it's just a matter of time. Mark my words. And when it's gonna happen, we don't know, but it will happen. It may not happen in next 2 years, but it's gonna happen. Okay. Then, if you look into the Middle East, what happened in the Middle East? Iran took care of the business. Iran has completely wiped out all the bases that were there. And I believe that so called allies in that region, they're not very keen on allowing US to have any bases. So, and I could be wrong too. I could be wrong, but that's just my assessment. Why? Because it's going to cost lots of money to put bases over there. And these allies, so called, they don't do anything over there. They don't even maintain those bases. All they do is just they hope for the best. And also in this whole Iran war, doesn't matter what people say, but US definitely had a strategic defeat. Why? I have made a long video on it, so please do go check it out. Video is titled as uh, why Trump wants to sign the deal. Because see, if you're winning, you don't sign the deal because when you're winning, only time you sign the deal is when you are losing. Okay, so so when President Trump keeps saying that, "Oh, let's sign the deal, let's sign the deal," that's not the sign of a winner. Iran is not saying, "Hey, let's sign the deal." Iran is saying, "Yeah, bomb some more. We are good to go." You want Afghanistan like situation for next 20 more years? Let's do it. So so that also has proved something that uh, that if US wants to get out of these regions, especially from the Middle East, then from the Asia Pacific, that is from the South China region. Why? Because if US stays in that region, then China's rise may actually create more conflict over there. And more conflict meaning China is not Iran, that you're just gonna go fight your way and do all that, right? So it's best to get out of there. But how do you get out? You get out, you need a face saving strategy, a face saving exit somehow. So from the Middle East, it's the deal, so called deal. And from the Japan and South Korea and all, it's that, okay, G2 is coming. That, yeah, we are not going to do all that. We are not going to protect our so called, we are not going to police the whole world. Let's get out. Also, also, there are certain other issues with this. That if you look into Strait of Malacca, then there are certain points, even in these regions, like for example, Singapore. Singapore is the point of contention. Why? Because Singapore has a lot of Chinese influence, and clearly US has lots of influence there too, because Singapore was developed on US money. So these are the kind of situations that US wants to avoid. At least President Trump wants to avoid, which is actually smart. I'm not gonna say that it's wrong or something. I'm saying that it is smart. You protect what you can protect, and not it's not even about protection. You have to think about America first. Why would you want to dump money into protecting some other country or something? Let them fight. So so when you do this whole thing with the so with this G2 framing, what happens is that America gets to choose to partner with China, and they can sort out their differences. Then it creates a strategic rebalancing, right? And it says that, okay, hey, we are just rebalancing, we are just retreating, we are going to our thing, this that. And I negotiated this deal directly with Xi, like that. And two world powers this way. And what happens? America is still at the top. At least this is in President Trump's mind. That's what at least he is thinking. And then comes the last reason. that the last reason I think is also very important. Okay, that he keeps saying G2, G2, G2 for, I think he's saying that when he says G2, what he's saying is that all these flashpoints that are there, where US and Chinese interests collide, they are going to sit down and discuss that bilaterally. Like, for example, if you look into for example, look into the Iran situation. What's happening? He keeps saying that, oh, thanks to President Xi and President Putin for not providing support to Iran. Now, with that, he's doing two things. Number one, he's telling Iran that, look, these were the guys you were bragging about. They never came for your help. That goes, it sends a message to Iran. And then also, it's like, okay, China and US are discussing the situation. Nobody else is allowed here. Iran situation. Then comes the Taiwan Strait, then South China Sea, then Strait of Malacca, Singapore, right? Then tech and AI decoupling, like for example, your rare earths or AI or anything else for that matter, right? So they can. So what he's saying that with G2, China and US are going to bilaterally discuss these things, and if there is anywhere, if there is Chinese influence or where there is US influence, their interests collide, we will just bilaterally discuss all these and sort it out. That's is the fair game, at least I'm thinking. Okay, so these are my thinking about whole G2 thing. So what do you guys think? Just post that into the comment. Let's see. Okay, because I think I have missed some points, but these I think that, but still I have covered most of it. So yeah, so this is it for this video, guys. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video.